Support for Jess Phillips in the Labour leadership election grows. We expose Jess Phillips for who she actually is, and we talk about what happened last night in one of the Westminster bars and Labour MPs. Right, the Labour leadership election is actually heating up now, and it's interesting because in the previous shows we talked about other candidates, Rebecca Long-Bailey, and we have a situation where for a party that is obsessed with making sure that the next leader is female, the only male candidate is actually the frontrunner. So we have a situation where Keir Starmer, the only male candidate, is actually growing his support. After him, you have Rebecca Long-Bailey, who's getting support from a lot of Corbynistas, until last night when Jess Phillips started to grow her support within the parliamentary party, and Labour MPs are now also backing Jess Phillips. She's now third, just behind Rebecca Long-Bailey, and considering Labour have an alternative voting system, it's not a guarantee that Keir Starmer could actually win. The second and the third candidates are also big players. Now in this video we're going to talk about Jess Phillips, who she actually is, what she believes in. But before we continue, towards the end of this video, we also have something very important to show you. I was at a Westminster bar last night and I bumped into some Labour MPs and some things happened. So make sure you watch to the end of the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you click subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified when we release videos. Obviously, videos come out every day at 5:45 p.m. Now, so Jess Phillips always claims that she's a very honest and straight-talking candidate and politician. Her website and her logo says, "Speak truth, win power." Now, let's see how true this statement actually is. She was interviewed by Andrew Marr last Sunday about her Brexit position, because all the candidates have to have one because Brexit is happening. You can't technically be a Remainer. You have to either embrace Brexit or be a rejoiner Labour Party. So just pick a side. And Jess Phillips is very straight talking. She was asked this very simple question. Yeah, she went on a rant for 2 minutes, and then at the end, she gave her answer. Not a good answer.
So you're a rejoiner now?
No, we have to wait and see the situation where we are. People can sit and pretend that they know what it's going to be, but that is just a lie. We have to wait and see. But I will always think that we are better off, we are safer.
The Labour Party policy could be that eventually you'd like to return to the EU.
You would have to look at what was going on at the time. If Boris Johnson, what our job is for the next 3 years, is to hold Boris Johnson to account on all the promises. So if we are living in an absolute paradise of trade and we're totally safe in the world and we're not worrying about having to constantly look to America for our safety and security, then maybe we'll be wrong, maybe I'll be proven wrong. But the reality is if our country is safer, if it is more economically viable to be in the European Union, then I will fight for that, regardless of how difficult that argument is to make.
So at the end, she finally said that yes, she would still be fighting for to support the EU and basically become a rejoiners party. Just say that. If you really love the EU, just say I love the EU and I will never stop campaigning for it. And this is not the only time. She was also on a Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan, and Susanna Reeve was questioning her because when Jeremy Corbyn, well, he's still leader anyway, but throughout this whole his leadership, Jess Phillips has been criticising him, and she even sometimes said, I might actually leave the party, stand as an independent. I can never stand on a manifesto on the same platform with Jeremy Corbyn. Well, she stood as a Labour candidate and she supported the manifesto.
Jess Phillips, we've talked about things like this before on this programme. I find it sometimes incomprehensible that you could stand as an MP on a manifesto, for instance, that you think couldn't be delivered. I find it sometimes, I scratch my head at the fact that, back in July 2016, you threatened to resign from the Labour Party and sit as an independent MP if Corbyn was re-elected as the leader of the party, stating you'd find it incredibly difficult to continue serving under Corbyn's leadership. You didn't do that. You carried on. Yeah. And so you were standing as an MP for a leader you didn't believe in and a manifesto that you didn't think voters would believe. How did you think the party was going to win?
Because you have to, well, I didn't think that the party was going to win, and that is why I kept speaking up and trying to change things, not just me, lots of people. And
isn't it disingenuous to stand as an MP for a party that you don't think is going to win because of the manifesto and because of the leader? There is a huge amount that both Corbyn wanted, the whole anti-austerity. But if you had the courage of your convictions and you said, I don't believe in this leader and I will go and stand as an independent because I do not believe he can deliver what I believe in. Why wouldn't you stand by that and go and stand as an independent?
I actually think that you're misquoting what I said in the first place. What I said was that the atmosphere in the party had become such that it would be very difficult for somebody like me
He
to
has
stay.
crossed a couple of red lines for me, and I will find it very difficult to fall in line with a further Jeremy Corbyn Labour Party.
Well, I did find it very difficult, is the truth.
And that's the whole issue. So again, just like all the other candidates, they have no problem with what Jeremy Corbyn was saying. They all supported the manifesto, like Keir Starmer. They like these socialist policies. Their problem is not the message, it's the messenger. And so don't be surprised. They're all the same anyway. And nothing is going to change if any of them basically becomes leader, because you're going to have the same policies and the same manifestos with just different faces and different language. But the other issue that I have with Jess Phillips is that she's obsessed with talking about different classes. And so I personally have no problem with anyone, whether they come from a more working class background or even upper class background, as long as they are doing the right thing. And also, as long as they embrace their own culture and their own background, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed. But Jess Phillips, just because she's from the Midlands and North, and well, outside of London it's all North for me. But so she claims, because she has an accent, she has a regional accent, so she's playing this card of, well, that means I'm working class and ordinary. So she tweeted this last year. She said, "The greatest lie that was ever told is that Boris is likeable with cut-through outside London. Boris Johnson, while you're in Birmingham for conference, I'll gladly take you on in a debate or take you for a little walk around this kingdom you so desire. Let's see how this great appeal..." I don't understand this lack of grammar, but this is how she tweets apparently. Now, Jess Phillips is a middle-class, grammar school educated daughter of an NHS executive, and she's now pretending to be something else. And this is why people have a problem with these sort of politicians, when they pretend to be something that they're not. The reason that Boris Johnson won this election, one of the reasons obviously, and the reason people have no problem with Boris Johnson's background, is because he embraces his class. He's not ashamed to be middle class, and he always makes jokes about it, and he says, yes, I am middle class, I have no problem with it. People want politicians and everybody to be straightforward and honest. If you're working class, just say you're working class. If you're middle class, say you're middle class. Trying to hide behind something else is the problem that the public have with politicians. The reality is Jess Phillips sounds working class to London poshos while espousing exactly the same views as the same London poshos. She believes in this patronising mentality of the middle class have to look after the ordinary and working class because apparently the ordinary people are stupid to actually make their own decisions. Again, this is a woman who earns £80,000 a year as an MP, and then she also gets expenses on top of it, a lot of perks as an MP, but she claimed one time in Parliament that she can't afford to buy a printer.
And so I have filed papers, and I signed my witness statements yesterday. I had to go to my mother-in-law's to print them. I don't have a printer, but I think they probably have one at number 10.
Now, this was exposed by Guido Fawkes back in September. Jess Phillips stood up in the House of Commons yesterday to declare that she doesn't own a printer and has to visit her mother-in-law every time she wants to print something. Phillips charged the taxpayers £24,000 for her office costs last year. Is she seriously saying that she couldn't find a spare £20 for a printer? Perhaps she could have found it within her annual £80,000 MP salary, book royalties, or the up to £160,000 she paid her husband in staff expenses. Yeah, she can't afford a £20 printer, but she's willing to basically steal taxpayers' money to spend it on random stuff on her husband. Now, the Labour leadership election is actually heating up. Last night, we had a situation where, for the first time, certain candidates like Rebecca Long-Bailey went to one of the Parliament's bars, strangers, to mingle, have a drink with some colleagues and network and gather support. Some of the Labour MPs had a lot of drinks, so they decided to continue the night. They left Parliament and came to another Westminster bar where I happened to be with my friends. And it was fine. We had Chris Bryant, Jonathan Ashworth, Louise Hay, and a number of others. Everything was fine. We were having a chat, drinking, until one of the Labour supporters, a couple of them, were singing by the piano, and they decided to troll the Labour MPs, and things got heated up because That's one of the Labour supporters who was angry, decided to sing a song and blame the whole election on them because they were still supporting Jeremy Corbyn. So let's watch a clip and see what happened.
I've had a few. Ties me blue. And more, much more than this. Come on, players!
Yes, and then from here, I had to basically break up this massive argument that was happening. There's I think, few seconds clip that we have on this as well. Yeah, so if anyone asks what I did last night, I basically brought peace to the Labour Party. So I think their problem is actually bigger than we think, and they have to sort it out among themselves. This is not my problem, and stop asking me to get involved. But this is a point that we have. Now, we don't care about these guys. They're going to destroy their own party. We have our own side to focus. Tomorrow we have a very important video on Brexit. Things are kicking off in the EU again. The EU Commission are becoming desperate. So we're going to do another show tomorrow on the whole Brexit stuff. And next Wednesday we have our Brexit victory rally. If you haven't signed up, make sure you sign up. We have obviously a number of guests. Talk Radio's Mike Graham, co-founder of the Vote Leave campaign, Douglas Carswell. And then we have 2 Conservative MPs, Steve Baker and Nigel Evans. I'll put the link in the description. Come join us, have a drink, and let's talk about getting Brexit done. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell next to it so you get notified when we release a new video. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video.